Hello and welcome to In Touch with Durham County. I'm Deborah Craig-Ray, Chief Communications Officer. Our goal is to have great conversations with our Durham County department heads, our staff, and our community partners so that we can share valuable information about our programs and services. I am excited to welcome leaders from two departments that residents should be quite familiar with: tax administration and elections. The tax department is responsible for listing, assessing, and collecting real and personal property taxes. Joining me today is Keyar Doyle, Durham County's tax administrator. Hello, Keyar. I'm so glad you're with us today.
Hello, Deborah, and thank you for having me.
I am looking forward to a really great conversation.
Me too.
Great. And following our conversation, we will welcome Elections Director Bowens in segment 2 to talk about elections 2024. Mark your calendars. The 2024 statewide primary and election is on Tuesday, March 5th. So welcome to the show, and let me again congratulate you on your appointment as our tax administrator. How's that going so far?
So far, so good. Something to get used to.
Well, absolutely. But you're not new to our organization. Tell our community what you did prior to your promotion.
I came to Durham County in 2007. I started off in appraisal as a residential appraiser. Spent a few years in that role, moved on to commercial, did a few years as a commercial appraiser for Durham County, and then I got into management. So prior to the tax administrator role, I was the division manager for real property.
Mm-hmm. So you have pretty much seen everything from soup to nuts in that office.
Yes, I have. On the real property side.
Yes. Now, many people may not know this, but in our state, a tax administrator position is one that is hired by the county commissioners, unlike most of our other department heads. And so you were perfectly positioned. You obviously impressed our board, and you got that appointment.
Yes, that was a very grueling process. It was very interesting. I got to see a lot of things from different standpoints, different perspectives, but the overall process, feel like I'm better for it.
Great. Well, I tell you, I'm running into people from other parts of the state that are in the tax world, and I mention your name, and they are very familiar with you, and they are very excited about your new role. So again, congratulations. Tell us a little bit about the key responsibilities of a tax administrator.
Well, I work with 3 divisions in the tax office. That would be the listing, billing and collections, and real property. And we basically work together to make sure that we list, value, and or discover all taxable property for Durham County, ultimately to collect taxes. Along with that role, I also have to make sure that I provide information necessary to the commissioners, as you mentioned before, and any reporting needs for each of the taxable districts.
Now, how many staff members are in our tax office?
Anywhere between 65 and 70 based off vacancies at that particular moment. I think we're very close to being fully staffed at the moment, so close to 70.
Oh, that's certainly great news.
Great news. Very hard to stay staffed these days, but we've been lucky that we're not experiencing too many issues and staying fully staffed.
Well, that's certainly great to hear. Yeah. So let's remind residents of the schedule around a tax bill. Now, with budget approval, the county commissioners set a tax rate. Then following that, your office sends out a tax bill, usually late summer, early fall. And then there is a deadline to pay without penalty. It's January 5th. That's by state law. So after that, what happens to folks who don't pay their bills timely?
Well, as you said, the deadline to pay is January 5th, 2020, or whatever year, but January 5th this year, 2024. And as of January 6th, that is when interest and penalties start accruing. So the interest starts at 2%, and then it accrues 0.75% the first day of every month following.
Okay.
That we try to avoid. There are numerous programs and things we try to put in place to make sure that we provide as many opportunities as possible to avoid late payments. If late payments occur, there is a hardship program that we provide. I won't call it a payment plan, but it's a hardship program that is in place to assist taxpayers who fall in that particular situation, and it allows them to make payments after that due date. Again, like I said, that's an unfortunate situation, but if that does occur, we try to encourage the hardship program. You have to qualify for that program.
Right.
But there are also, because of that, that is also the same time where the it's at this point, unfortunately, there are measures that can be taken because of that particular stance and that particular lack of payment. So that is when bank garnishments and things of that nature are available to the county. But like I said, we work with taxpayers as best we can to avoid those particular circumstances. There are a number of programs that we provide, and they're through the state. So we have the disabled, we have the elderly, and we have the circuit breaker. Circuit breaker is more of a deferment program, but they're all programs provided to kind of assist taxpayers. We also encourage people to apply for the Department of Social Services low income program.
That's a fairly new program.
Yeah, it's very new, but we encourage people to apply, although they have to go through Department of Social Services. It's not something that we could provide in-house into the tax office, so we work with social services to get that program going.
Very good, very good. Now, I know that we do payment plans, but my understanding is you can't be behind when you request a payment plan. Is that correct?
Yes, we don't call it a payment plan, but so when the bills go out, the bills include 5 coupons, and those coupons are meant to encourage people to go ahead and start making payments once they receive their bill, and they can make those 5 payments or increments of 5. But in all honesty, you can start paying your taxes before you receive a bill. So if you know what your previous bill was or that amount, it's probably safe to go ahead and start making payments towards that type of amount. You'll get a bill, and when you get that bill, you'll know exactly what the number is.
Right.
But there's nothing against making payments as soon as you possibly can.
That's a good thing. Yeah. So I know one responsibility that our taxpayers probably don't necessarily look forward to is the process we call reappraisal or reevaluation. You know, what is reevaluation? We call it reval for short.
Yes, we do. So the reevaluation, and now we refer to it as a reappraisal, but it's the same process. The revaluation reappraisal is the process of all taxable properties being brought up to 100% market value. So the last reval was in 2019, and all the values were brought up to 100% market value as of January 1, 2019, and the next reappraisal will be January 1, 2025. In essence, what that means is all of the values from the market are being analyzed or reviewed for the 2-year period prior. It's impossible to create actual value or assess all of the properties on one day, January 1, 2025. So really, we're taking the data from and last reappraisal was 2017 and 2018 for the 2019 reappraisal. This time it'll be 23 and 24 for the 2025 reappraisal. So all of the values are being looked at, analyzed, and the goal is to get to 100% market value.
Right.
So in essence, this is why when you see a tax value go from, let's just say $230,000 to $275,000, it didn't happen overnight. It happened throughout the time period between those reappraisals. In this case, it'll be 6 years, 2019 to 2025. So you're looking at whatever change takes place, it's not from 1 year, it's from a 6-year period.
And certainly living in this area, we know that there's been a lot of shifting in the real estate market. And again, people We'll need some education to understand our process. I do know that you will be sending out our appraisers into some of our neighborhoods and doing data collection. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, the process involves all three divisions, but the real property division has a real frontline experience of going out into the field and really making sure that we have everything correct in regards to the listings of these properties. Those properties go through a lot of different changes and stages. Some properties are untouched and haven't been changed at all, and then you have certain properties that have been renovated heavily, rehabbed, or new construction. So the appraisers have to make sure that they stay in the field and stay abreast of what's going on in their particular assigned areas. Approaching a reappraisal, they have to go a little more frequently to the areas where these changes are taking place and the new construction is being done. So right now, taxpayers can definitely rest assured that they will be seeing tax appraisers in their areas driving through the neighborhoods with those Durham County tax cars. So hopefully they are on alarm when they see it. They're just out doing the job.
That's right. They're out doing their job. So I think we might have touched on this, but I'm not sure. How often are counties required to do reappraisals?
That's a great question. So in the state of North Carolina, the counties are required to do a reappraisal at least once every 8 years. Durham County has tried to go to a 4-year cycle. In general, any shorter period of time is best. An 8-year cycle is what's basically mandatory, but as you can see in this particular market, there can be a lot of movement in 4-year, 8-year time period. So 4 years is what we shoot for because we're trying to minimize as much movement as possible, whether that's up or down. In this particular case, the market shot up. But yeah, we definitely try to make sure that we take advantage of a 4-year cycle. There were a few things that took place since 2019, being the pandemic, a malware attack, and we're actually undergoing a software conversion. So there were a few things that kind of made doing a 4-year reappraisal a little complicated this time around. But 2025 is the very next one we have scheduled.
Well, very good. And I know you're in preparation for that now.
Yes.
Yeah. So how will you educate the community about the process?
We're going out into the communities to speak. We have a few places that we have in mind. We would love for the county to reach out to us and let us know where they would like us to speak, so the public definitely can play a role in regards to where we go. We'll also have videos and documentation on the website. We'll be sending out mail so people will get direct notifications and instructions and any type of information to just broaden their understanding in the mailbox.
Great. Well, we would certainly like to thank you so much for the work that you and your staff are doing and will do to make sure we have a successful revale. And again, we're just excited that you are one of our newest department heads. And thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're going to take a little break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about elections, because as you know, this is what they call the big year 2024. Thank you, and we'll come right back with our elections director in just a moment.
Funds from the American Rescue Plan Act are helping Durham County recover from the COVID-19 pandemic and emerge stronger than ever. Recognizing the important role nonprofits play in supporting community needs, the Board of Commissioners set aside over $10 million for a nonprofit grant program. One way the American Rescue Plan Act is helping Durham County is by increasing capacity and quality of childcare, an essential service to support our workforce. Over $2 million has been allocated to provide childcare scholarship payments for income-eligible families. Child Care Services Association and Families Moving Forward are the nonprofit community partners helping facilitate this financial assistance. In addition to scholarships, $1.6 million has been provided to help build capacity of licensed child care providers in Durham County. two nonprofits, Built to Last Innovations Lab and Child Care Services Association, were selected to facilitate meeting childcare needs and ultimately build stronger educational outcomes for our kids. Built to Last Innovations Lab is supporting business equity solutions for Durham's worker shortage by launching an entrepreneurial training and workforce development program for licensed childcare facilities and providers. The Child Care Services Association will enhance childcare capacity through business training, coaching, and structured peer mentorship. To learn more about how Durham County is leveraging ARPA funds to maximize community impact, visit us online.
Welcome back to In Touch. In case you've missed it, 2024 is a presidential election year, but there are key races up and down the ballot, local, state, and federal. We've invited Durham County Elections Director Deborah Bowens to the show to help us learn about new laws impacting this year's election cycle, as well as get some details about the primary election in March and the general election in November. Welcome, Derek. Thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure to be here, Deborah. Thanks for having me again.
Well, this is going to be an exciting year, and I know your team is already working hard.
They are. Very, very much so. Very much so.
Well, please tell us a little bit about your career in elections prior to coming to Durham County, because you've been here a while now.
I have. Well, first I can say it's the greatest county in North Carolina and probably the world to work in. But I started in elections in 2012 as an election specialist with the New Hanover County Board of Elections down in Wilmington. Became director there 3 years later in 2015. And then saw the opportunity here in Durham and was excited to come down. So glad to be here and hope to be here for a long time.
Well, we're so glad, and we hope to make that happen.
Thank you.
So you are effectively the CEO of elections, if you will, but there's a board, a literal board. Who are they and how are they appointed?
Yeah, so all 100 counties in North Carolina are comprised of a county board of elections with 5 members. Typically, although this is not statutory, 3 of the members are of the party of the governor, and two of the members are the minority party. So right now we have 3 Democrats and 3 Republicans, and they have all quasi-judicial and policy-making authority over elections executed under its jurisdiction. So that board oversees me, I oversee a staff, and they also have the authority to delegate administrative responsibilities, which they do directly to me, so long as it doesn't include any of their policy or quasi-judicial authority.
Right, right. Now, what's the overall size of your office now?
Well, it's grown. So in total, we have 12 people. We have some vacancies right now that we're working to fill. We have 1 dedicated employee in our IT department that handles the development of BOE applications. So 12 plus 1 that is dedicated to us. So I say 13, but 12 in-house.
So how does that change in a presidential year such as we're in?
It changes significantly. If we go back to 2020, which was the last comparable election to this one that we're about to engage in, we voted about 91,000 people during the primary election, and we probably had from 500 to 600 people working. So we expect to be around that number in regards to temporary workforce. That doesn't include folks that work in our office. We could have anywhere from 20 to 50 people just helping handle administrative tasks internally. So you're looking anywhere from 600 to 650 people at max during an election event, in addition to permanent staff.
Yeah, yeah. Now, it seems like a good time to ask, are you hiring? Do you need staff? Who do you need?
Well, we always need people to apply. We're looking really good right now for our early voting period. We're looking good for Election Day. But we always want people to apply because we like to keep reserve pools in the event people drop out, and it happens a lot, and it happens a lot as we get closer to our scheduled events. So yes, on our website we have a all online precinct official application where we've streamlined that process, and we'd love to have people apply, and we can use them in different capacities. So.
Very good. So has it been challenging to hire? Because just kind of thinking back to 2020, we had across the nation some real hard times for election workers in some places. So has it been a challenge to attract people?
Surprisingly, no. I think we've had a really dedicated pool of individuals. So we already have a quite bolstered group of folks that are available as we need them to complete election administration functions. And of course we pay. One of the big misconceptions I think about elections probably nationwide is that it's volunteers. These are actually paid individuals. Durham County at a minimum pays $16 an hour to election officials. So that's always a nice incentive for folks to come and apply. So we're in pretty good shape, but we're always looking to expand our portfolio of folks that can help us execute these elections.
Well, that's good to know, because just kind of reflecting on 2020, we were going through a pandemic. I mean, we were using voting with masks and gloves and hand sanitizer and having to make a lot of changes to keep our voters safe and then, of course, our employees safe as well. So how did your team pivot to ensure that everything went well at that time?
Oh, well, that was a challenging year for sure, the 2020 general election. We saw humongous increases in absentee by mail. We went up from probably on average of sending out 10,000 absentee ballots to over 70,000 for the 2020 general election. So, we did it. It took a lot of temporary employees, a lot of external assistance from the State Board of Elections. Even some third-party groups helped us with grants, non-categorical grants that we could use to purchase ballot opening machines, use that towards gathering temporary employees. And that was our first real transition into using a temporary agency to help with our internal staffing, which is something that has lasted beyond COVID, which has been a great benefit to our office. So we're very thankful to the county and the commissioners for allowing us to continue to use that service. But for us, it was just being willing to pivot at any point. A lot of change management and making sure that we were overstaffed at all times really helped us get through that internally. And also, of course, everything we had to do to protect our Durham community via the things you mentioned. So it was a very, very challenging election, but one of the most successful that we've had. We had over 180,000 people vote in that election, and we hope the same thing continues in this primary and also in November.
Yeah. So let's kind of talk about some changes. Of course, first thing, I think it was about last April, that one of the court rulings came down and we now must provide an acceptable ID when we vote. And I think we used them the first time in the municipal election that we just had. So how has that gone? And then I know you guys are working now to continue to help people who don't have a valid ID.
Yeah, it's going good from an administration standpoint. Obviously, there's different perspectives as to photo identification implementation, but you're correct. In 2023, that was the first rollout for us, and it went relatively well. We've issued, as you also mentioned, over 215 voter identification cards to individuals in our community. And also this last Saturday, we were at Main Library where we issued 7 cards and we educated the public about that photo identification requirement for the 2024 elections. So it's really going good. We're also doing outreach events Saturday in every upcoming month. And of course, folks can come by our office anytime and fill out a small document and get that photo ID if they don't have one.
And it's free.
It's free, completely free.
Excellent. Now, there's another provision that involves absentee ballots, and Durham County is actually one of 10 pilot counties that will be operating with this pilot provision around absentee ballots and documented signatures. Can you talk to us about that, please?
Sure. So this was a provision of Session Law 2023-140, or better known as Senate Bill 747. And it requires, the General Assembly has required the State Board of Elections to implement a signature verification pilot program with 10 counties throughout the state. So the state implemented a process to randomly select counties based on criterion that they put together. And we happen to be a county selected out of the capital region, which which is comprised of many of the largest counties. And I think we're the largest
county involved.
We are, very much so, the largest county by far. A few other counties were Bertie, I believe Hertford and Pamlico, just for example. And of course, Durham has a lot more registered voters than those counties mentioned. But I do want to ease some concerns on this program. We're waiting for the State Board of Elections. They're required under that bill to provide us the software that we would use to conduct that analysis. We're still waiting for more information on how this will happen, just like the general public. But one thing I can assure the public on is that none of this evaluation will affect the adjudication of a ballot. And what I mean by that is the board will not reject a ballot based on this data. This is strictly data collection, which will be sent to the State Board of Elections and then all over to the General Assembly to determine what they might want to do in future elections with signature verification. But no worries to our community. It will not affect the adjudication or review of your ballot.
Yeah, because I was just thinking, I mean, if you look at my signature on this document compared to one I might sign tomorrow, it might look a little different.
Yep.
And I think people kind of have a little worry about that, but I'm glad to hear you say that.
Right, and rightfully so. But yeah, for sure, this is not something to be concerned with. Of course, if there's future implementation, that may have different ramifications, but for this one, it's simply a test.
Great. Now, sample ballots are available now, I understand. How can people see those?
Yeah, so voters can see that. The State Board of Elections has a voter lookup tool where voters can look themselves up and actually see the sample ballot that applies to them. You can get to that from our website at Deco Votes. We have 19 different ballot styles for this election. So voters will be able, they'll have a specific style. Of course, if voters are unaffiliated, they'll get to choose which party primary they'd like to vote in for those that are participating. But yeah, all of that can be found on our website. And of course, you can call the BOE and we'd be happy to get that to you.
Yeah, very good. Now, early voting is important. And I think overall, our people take pretty good advantage of early voting. How do you select the locations for early voting?
So we typically make our decisions, or the staff actually proposes a plan to the Board of Elections, and we do it based on comparable election analysis. So for this election, we looked at the 2020 primary because that would have been the last presidential primary event that we would have had. That election, we had 8 sites. This election, we have 7 because the data suggested that one of the sites was incredibly underutilized. And so we transitioned those funds into other areas where we thought we could have more impact with regard to voter participation. So in selecting those sites, we really look at comparable elections, growth of our community, where we're seeing expansion of individuals in the determination of where we might want to have additional sites. Of course, when we get to the general election in November, those numbers will go up very large because we see a huge increase in early voting participation in federal general elections.
And I know sometimes some people are informed that their normal voting site might have moved or changed. How do you inform people about that?
Yeah, so anytime we have a polling place change for election day polling places, we're required under the law to mail every active voter a card informing them of what that new polling place is. In addition to that, we do a lot of campaigns on our website through videos, and also press releases. And we also have signage at old sites if voters are referred to new sites. So all voters are informed. We typically send out a yellow card so voters don't toss it over into the pile of stuff they don't want to look at. But yeah, every voter is notified via a card, and we also put a 45-day notice in a paper that has general circulation in the county.
Fantastic. So I know there's some basic dates to remember. We're going to put those on the screen so that the public will know. But the biggest date to remember now is March what?
5th.
Okay.
March 5th is election day, 6 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. And of course, early voting starts on February 15th, and that goes through March the 2nd. That full schedule can be found on our website on the show as well. So.
Great. Well, we again like to thank you for a wonderful conversation and for always letting us know what we most need to know when it comes time to voting. And that's why we continue to have a really successful process in our county, and we're just so proud.
Yes, thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
All right, we'll have to get you back later in the year as we get closer to November.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Good deal. Well, we want to thank you all so much for watching our show today. We appreciate your support and attention. Please join us next time for In Touch with Durham County. Cheers.